Hi there, welcome to Bitcoin Wyckoff Technical Analysis session. If you're new to my sessions, here are the 3 key takeaways you can expect from the session. So let's start with the weekly chart of Bitcoin. Here, we're seeing the candlestick moving to the right hand side near the bottom edge of this pink box. This pink box is the uptrend that started way back in October 2023. As of this moment, we can see the selling of this week that just started for less than 2 days. Initially, the price went up to around the automatic reaction level of the upthrust of the distribution in the blue scenario. I'll explain in a second what the yellow scenario is, and then got rejected back to the current level of around 103k. Okay, so remember the 104k was the other key level. I think somehow the line disappeared. It may be hiding somewhere else, but let's bring it back. Alright, so in the past sessions we have talked about this 104k support or resistance line depending on which side the price is at. I guess maybe when I was doing other sessions and copy and pasting, I accidentally took out the 104k key level. So if you look at what happened over here, that's where the upthrust in the blue scenario was. Likewise for the second test, both around those levels, and the subsequent candlesticks also touched at around this particular level. And that's where we are now, sitting right underneath that key level. So what's going to happen is, or like in less than 2 weeks, is the triangles to where the key level crosses the bottom edge of the pink box. That air hockey table in the other terminology I use so you can relate. The reason I use air hockey table is because the price tends to bounce between the two edges within this channel. Okay, so in terms of Wyckoff stages for the big picture, we have been saying there's still 30% chance for this to bounce off from the bottom and shoot up at least to the center line before it challenges the ceiling again. However, the higher tendency is head towards the sign of weakness that sits somewhere around 74k. Obviously, the first stop would be the 91k key level. That's where the automatic reaction 2 was. And then there would be a couple of LPSYs like this one, meaning it can come down and bounce off once or twice or even 3 times before it reaches the sign of weakness level. This level, Bitcoin's price hit it somewhere in March this year. Okay, if it falls outside of this upward channel, that's where it's going to very likely to test that same level again if the Wyckoff pattern reappears or the Wyckoff distribution really comes to near the end. Okay, and the yellow scenario, I mentioned I'll cover this, is that it's 1 stage later than the blue. The main reason is what happened during March to November 2024. That particular period of horizontal trading, consideration for the blue scenario is that the PSY, the preliminary supply, happened somewhere here in February 2024. For the yellow scenario, it considered that entire period a PSY. Okay, the actual buying climax happened back in December 2024, where in the blue scenario that's considered an upthrust. That's why the yellow is 1 stage later than the blue. Hey, Lias, or ES, more power to my channel. Thank you. So That's the difference between the yellow and the blue scenario. I was supposed to go stealth mode, but then I forgot to change the setting, but it's okay. We can still chat for this session, but subsequent ones I'll go in stealth mode so I can go quicker. Okay, that's the big picture. Remember, this is pretty strong that if the trend is broken, the south is where Bitcoin will go. And in terms of the timing, here we can see this triangle as well as this wedge over here. So one pointing towards November 23rd, the other sitting somewhere around November 27th. So both roughly about 2 or 2.5 weeks from now. Alright, so these 2 time points, if the price continues to trade within this red box, this downward channel that started back in October 7th, in that particular week, even before the tariff announcement. Okay, if the trading continues within this triangle, or if, like the case that it is where it is now, that it drops below here, but still stay above the pink line, like what it did between November 4th all the way to November 7th, these 4 candlesticks. Okay, if it continues to trade within this area, either by November 23rd or November 27th, it eventually has to get to a decision. So what decision is that? Basically, is it going to continue within this uptrend, the bigger trend, okay, that I said started in October 2023. So this large pink box, these 2 edges, okay, is it going to break outside of this smaller box and go back to the bigger box to play? Okay, that's the first thing, or the bullish, neutral to bullish scenario. However, if it doesn't, if the confirmation for those 2 dates here is to continue with the downtrend, meaning continue with the smaller box, whether it's trading along the ceiling or drops to the bottom edge and bounce around, it doesn't matter. The key is it has fallen outside of the larger channel, this area. That's something that hasn't happened over the past 2 years. Okay, the last time it challenged the bottom was the spring, back in April, just this year. And it bounces off to the new distribution in the daily chart, okay? In the weekly, that's when we got to the peak we had back in October. Alright? So you see what happened over here from July all the way to October. That's where the biggest peak landed. Okay, so this time, if it doesn't hold like last round, then breaking down from that level, from that support, there's an intermediate support at around 99k, because that's where the 2 sign of weaknesses were back in June. And then eventually we'll get to the point of the 90k key level. Alright, so it's a bit too early to tell. There is still time for the price to bounce from the blue, even if it drops over there. Unless it's something really crazy, but something as crazy as the tariff announcement only brought the price from the center line of the channel, of the bigger upward channel, down to the purple key level of 104k. So unless something, either geopolitical or economical crazily bad happen, for Bitcoin to fall back to 91 or even 74k, it has to be something really attracting the capital of people to somewhere else. Okay, assuming there's no big money printing, when new all-time high? Not that easy, but good question. I'm touching on that right now. Unless there are a couple of countries saying they're going to print a whole lot of money, that's going to push the price bounce fiercely and maybe setting a new all-time high, like many asked. Hi, Rotor I'll call you Rotor if you don't mind. It's easier. Sorry to having to call you or name in short. Yeah, so that's the thing. So if there's no money printing, assuming the big guys, I don't know what you like to call them, the whales, the composite man, hedge funds, whatever institutions, they are going to move their money, reallocate their portfolio to somewhere they see the bigger growth. Okay, if they don't see any reason for Bitcoin to shoot to, I don't know, 140k or 150k, that's like a 50% rise, right? So if they don't see any fuel going to push that to that level, they're going to move their money to somewhere they may see giving them higher return. So that's the time where the real test for Bitcoin price comes in, and that's when these two key levels are going to be really tested, and that's when the sign of weakness may eventually show up. Alright, so the coming 2 weeks is really key when the price continues to trade towards this triangle. Remember, we're not too far from then, and that the breakout can happen sooner before it gets to the tip of the triangle. Alright, so it is an exciting moment. It's either breakout or fall down to a lower level that maybe a lot of people are not expecting. Maybe a lot of people are still expecting that Bitcoin will go further up to show us an all-time high, which there is a possibility, but the fuel has to be there in order for that rocket launch to go even further. So one more thing, because I know there are a lot of new comers to the community, I've shared many sessions back about this uptrend. So initially you see what happened was the price bounced towards the ceiling of the pink box. It's normal maneuver to the other side and then bounces another time. And this time, back in April when it bounced, it did not hit the ceiling at all. You see the difference between this time, it went sideways. The peak went sideways towards the right hand side, not hitting the ceiling. That to me implies a decline in momentum for the rocket to go further to Mars or to whichever planet we like or you like. That's the difference. Okay, initially the trajectory is like this, and then suddenly it turns a bit like this. It's like the curve is starting to flatten out, and that's a sign of weakening momentum. So unless, like I said, if there are very good reasons to push the price further up and reclaim that particular trajectory from the declining flattening curve once again to this kind of slope. Otherwise, it's going to either go like this or even come down like this. Okay? So let's see. In 2 weeks, we'll have an answer. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to stealth mode and continue with the other 7 sessions. So it will take roughly about 40 minutes for me to complete, and then I'll release all those 7 sessions all together. Thanks for hopping in and saying hi. See you in the future sessions.